Chapter 601. The Dragon Bandit poked his head out and looked around. When he saw Zhou Xian and the other two, he was stunned. F***ck. Is it so exaggerated to send students to suppress bandits now? The Dragon Bandit had been in society for many years and was extremely experienced. Naturally, he could tell at a glance that Zhou Xian and the other two were students. Kong Ming snorted coldly. So what if you're students? Students will still destroy you. Hearing this, the Dragon Bandit laughed. Little brother, you're looking down on us Dragon Bandits too much. If just a few students can suppress bandits, then we might as well quit our jobs. Kong Ming said, cut the crap. Call out all your Dragon Bandits and let you see if our students can suppress bandits. The Dragon Bandit probed. Although there was an ambush nearby, there were only a dozen students. He was immediately amused. Which idiot instructor brought the students to train and actually let the students suppress bandits? Can any B-grade instructor do the job now? Then he looked at Immerse, who was not far away. You should be the instructor, right? Did you pull your brain out when you came out for training? Immerse could not be bothered with him at all. Whoosh! A ray of metal attribute energy flashed. The Dragon Bandit was directly cut in half from head to toe. The eyes of the two halves of his corpse were filled with disbelief. Instant kill? Were the students now so terrifying? But it didn't matter. He was still completely dead. After those brothers in the cave rushed out and destroyed these guys, there was still hope for him to be saved. However, just as this thought flashed through his mind, whoosh 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 whoosh, the two halves of the Dragon Bandit's corpse were all cut into pieces. At this moment, Mu Wanqing saw this and suddenly felt her stomach churn. She couldn't help but squat down and vomit. In the past, she killed star beast cubs. After all, they were different species, so killing them didn't seem to make her feel much. But when she saw the corpse of the Dragon Bandit, who was also a giant dragon, she suddenly felt serious psychological and physical discomfort. Kong Ming's face was also slightly pale. He turned to look at Zhou Xian. This guy was too sharp. Wasn't he disgusted at all? Of course, Zhou Xian was disgusted. But at this moment he focused all his attention on the cave entrance, so the feeling of disgust was not that strong. Although it was his first time killing a giant dragon, he wanted to prove to his mentor that he was not inferior to any giant dragon. When the Dragon Bandits hiding in the cave saw this, their hearts trembled. Brothers, these students are not to be trifled with. Not to be trifled with, there are only 20 of them. Including their teachers, there are only 21 of them. There are 60 of us. Can't we beat them? Seeing this, the leader of the bandits frowned. He thought to himself, they haven't experienced the beating of society, so they don't know how ruthless the Dragon Bandits are. Brothers, let's attack together and destroy these bastards. With a shout, more than 60 people immediately rushed out from the edge. However, right after they rushed out, all of them suddenly stopped moving. The space around them seemed to have been sealed. No matter how hard they tried, no matter how much energy they used, they couldn't move at all. They were shocked. Not good, there's a space attribute giant dragon. The golden sword was the first to strike. His entire being seemed to have become one with the sword. In an instant he attacked the Dragon Bandits at the very front. Whoosh! The Dragon Bandit's head exploded. The rest of the Dragon Bandits' expressions changed. They hurriedly struggled with all their might. These students were still lacking in actual combat experience, so they couldn't seize the opportunity of Kong Ming's space imprisonment. They were slightly slower and the Dragon Bandits broke free. There were too many people here. Kong Ming's space imprisonment could only imprison them for 3 seconds at most. After these Dragon Bandits broke free, they all revealed their ferocity. The bandit leader roared angrily, "Kill them!" He could tell that although some of these students were of the space attribute, their levels weren't high. They couldn't imprison them for too long. Moreover, these students didn't cooperate well with each other. In addition, they had 3 times the number of these students. If they still couldn't win, they wouldn't be able to survive. That was why he ordered these brothers to kill these students. These students were indeed lacking in actual combat experience. In addition, they weren't as fierce as the Dragon Bandits to begin with. The Dragon Bandits had the aura of desperation which they couldn't compare to. Therefore, they were at a disadvantage as soon as they started fighting. Whoosh! A student's chest was pierced through. Crack! A student's leg was directly cut off. Puff! At this moment, another student's head flew into the air. Wang Yi pretended not to see this. These students were the top geniuses of their respective families. They were usually doted on by everyone. They had never suffered such a blow before. If they didn't suffer a little now, they might not be able to take it if they had to suffer again when they entered society. Rather than that, it was better to let them suffer now. This way they would grow faster. Soon these students all fell to the ground. Even if they had the Earth attribute light shield of Earth City, they couldn't withstand the attacks of so many dragon bandits. When Immorse saw that one of the students was about to be beaten to death, he used his telekinesis to save him. Immorse snatched the body and head of the student who had lost his head. He put the body and head together, opened his mouth and poured a bottle of medicine inside. In just 5 minutes, the student's head was connected. It was intact. This was the healing medicine that Immorse had received after signing in at the 10,000 Dragon Star Zone. If this healing medicine was placed on Earth, an ordinary person would be able to heal any wound instantly after drinking a bottle. It was also because this student had a dragon body that his recovery was so slow. Soon almost all the students fell to the ground. Immorse shook his head slightly and saved them all. Then he shouted to Earth City in the distance, "You're here." When the seriously injured students saw this, they all looked at their teacher in surprise. 19 of them attacked at the same time, but they were still beaten up so badly. Their teacher actually let Earth City go up alone? Wouldn't that be an instant kill? When the dragon bandits saw Immorse's methods, they were also slightly afraid of Immorse. But when they saw that Immorse didn't do it himself but sent a student up, they laughed. One by one they all laughed. "Ha! So many people can't beat us. Your teacher sent you to your death. You fool, you were deceived by your teacher and you're still working for him. Sigh, what kind of teachers are they now? They're still calling themselves dragon bandits. They tricked students to their deaths. Alright, since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish." However, Earth City didn't care about the more than 50 dragon bandits. "Go kill him," the bandit leader roared. The other dragon bandits immediately let out a shout and charged towards the Earthen City. Chapter 602. When Tuching appeared alone in front of the 60 dragon bandits, all the students were stunned. "Tuching. Instructor, how can you let him deal with so many dragon bandits alone? Instructor, get him to come back. Tuching, you idiot, come over here." Tuching had always been the one at the bottom of their class. It had been almost 60 years since he entered the academy. His level had never increased. Because of the limited energy in his body, he could not learn any slightly advanced Earth attribute skills. Now there were 19 of them with all kinds of attributes, but they were still defeated by those dragon bandits. Tuching, on the other hand, was facing 60 dragon bandits one by one. This was completely suicide. However, Immorse was not moved at all. Tuching was also not moved. Facing those dragon bandits who were mocking him, he turned around and looked at Immorse. Immorse nodded slightly at him. The next moment Tuching roared, "Ah!" When those dragon bandits saw this, they could not help but laugh. "That's quite scary. It's okay to scare a little girl. But don't you know who I am?" As they said that, those dragon bandits continued to pounce. They were going to chop Tuching into meat paste. However, at this moment Tuching suddenly leaped into the air. At the same time his body rapidly expanded and changed. His skin began to petrify and even his eyes began to petrify. His body no longer looked like a human but like a huge rock. And this huge rock was still growing. In just a moment, it had turned into a mountain 10,000 meters tall, more than 50 kilometers long and wide. When those students saw this, their eyes almost popped out. "Tuching. This, oh my god." Those dragon bandits who had just pounced over also had a drastic change in expression. They had seen dragons that were tens of thousands of meters long, and they had also seen super-evolved dragons that were 100,000 meters long. But this guy could turn into a 100,000-meter tall mountain. They had never seen it before. In shock, they hurriedly wanted to escape. However, it was too late. That mountain fell from the sky. Rumble, 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 the ground shook violently. Mountains collapsed and the earth cracked. Within a radius of hundreds of kilometers, there was an extremely strong tremor. Trees toppled and birds bugled. As for the area within 50 kilometers, there was no movement at all. Because everything was firmly pressed down by this huge mountain. Rumble, rumble, with a thought, Immorse brought the students away from their original spot. It was floating in the sky more than 60 kilometers away. Looking at his eyes, everything was shaking. It was as if someone was constantly running around with a camera in their hand. The tremors lasted for more than 5 minutes. The smoke and dust that filled the air lasted for a full 15 minutes. When a gust of wind blew and the dust settled, the mountain had already disappeared. A figure could be seen slowly emerging from the dust cloud. It was the unremarkable Zhou Xian. Around him, within a radius of 50 kilometers, the ground had sunk several dozen meters deep. All the trees, rocks, mountains, and rivers inside no longer existed. As for the close to 60 dragon bandits, they had long been crushed into thin pieces of paper. They were like human specimens that had been crushed, sinking deep into the ground. Seeing this scene, except for Zhou Xian, all the students were dumbfounded. Was this still the guy who ranked last in their eyes? It had been almost 60 years since he entered school. This Zhou Xian couldn't do anything but eat first. This kind of student was often the most annoying. So there was no one in the class who had a good relationship with him. He had also given up and lost his drive to improve. In everyone's eyes, this guy was just waiting to graduate and leave. But now, the close to 60 dragon bandits that 19 of them couldn't deal with together were killed by him in one move? Wasn't this 2F** king big of a contrast? And it could actually become such a huge mountain. This was really F** king ridiculous. It seemed that not to mention 60 people, even if it was 600 people, 6,000 people, or even 60,000 people, Zhou Xian could also kill them in one move. It was said that Golden Sword was ignorant below the super-evolved dragon. But looking at Zhou Xian, he was probably infinitely close to the super-evolved dragon. One must know that he was only a rank 1 evolved dragon. In everyone's shock, Zhou Xian slowly walked over. Immorse asked with a smile, "How do you feel?" Zhou Xian, "A little disgusting." With that, he vomited all over the ground. After all, it was his first time killing people, killing dragons, and killing so many at once. It would be strange if he didn't feel disgusted. When he was almost done vomiting, a group of students said one after another, "Zhou Xian, you're really something. We were all blind before." Is this the power of the planetary body? Didn't you say before that the planetary body needs to be comprehended, and there is only a 1 in 10,000 chance of successfully comprehending it? I can't see that you usually look like a broken jar, but in fact it's all for us to see. It's only been 2 months and you've already comprehended it to this extent. This was the first time Zhou Xian had been praised by his classmates in the past 60 years. He, who had always had a face as thick as a city wall, scratched the back of his head in embarrassment and laughed twice. It's not that I comprehended quickly, it's that the mentor taught me well. This was the truth. Although he had a planetary body, he wasn't too smart. With his brain, he wouldn't be able to comprehend it even if he was given 8 lifetimes. It was Immorse who put him in the Earth space so that he could experience hundreds of millions of years in a few seconds. It allowed him to constantly feel the formation of a planet. When he really couldn't comprehend it, Immorse used the omniscience and omnipotence in the Earth space to directly make him comprehend it in an instant. This repeated over and over again, and he was able to reach his current level in more than 2 months. All the students listened and looked at Immorse. They believed that Zhou Xian's words must have been taught well by Mentor Immo. Without Mentor Immo, Zhou Xian probably wouldn't have been able to reach 1 in 10,000 of what he had just done in this lifetime. It wasn't just Zhou Xian. Without the mentor, all of them were still the same as they were 2 months ago. The self-righteous students of Cloud Sea Academy were all complacent. They didn't know what a real fight was, and they didn't know how dangerous the fight with the dragon bandits was. When Mentor Jean Pandu left, they were still in a bad mood. They even planned to take over the mentor of their class. Now that they think about it, they were really stupid. If they had really driven Mentor Immo away, it would definitely have been the stupidest thing they had ever done in their lives. Chapter 603. When Zhou Xian Earth City killed nearly 60 dragon bandits in one move, the students were naturally surprised. Even Zhou Xian himself was quite surprised by himself. Although he knew that he could transform into a mountain, he never dared to think that he could kill so many dragons in one move. One had to know that those guys were all of a higher level than him. And it wasn't just 1 or 2 levels higher. This made Zhou Xian's eyes fill with tears. If his parents knew that he could kill so many dragons in one move, he didn't know how excited they would be. But Immorse wasn't excited at all. If he had to say that there was an emotional change, it would be gratification. The kind of gratification a teacher felt when he saw his student improving. At this moment the system's sexy voice sounded in Immerse's mind. Frowny face dragon slaying. 334500. He was one step closer to advancing to a rank 6 super evolved dragon. He reckoned that after exterminating all the dragon bandits in the Misty Mountains, he would be able to level up no matter what. Next, Immerse took out some healing potions for the students to apply and consume. The recovery speed of these potions he received from the system was very abnormal. No matter how serious the injuries of the students were, they could recover within 5 minutes. This caused the students to be very surprised. "Teacher, where did you get this healing potion? I'll get my family to buy some too." Immerse smiled and shook his head. "It's a secret ancestral recipe, self-made." The class monitor Shui Bolon took the bottle and looked at it. He looked up and asked, "Teacher, can I buy some from you? You can name the price." Shui Bolon wasn't short of money. But was Immerse short of money? What a joke, he didn't need to spend money on cultivation. The Lei family paid for his food, accommodation and other expenses. Therefore he didn't spend much money usually. He shook his head and said, "These potions of mine are all exclusive. I won't sell them for any price. You guys are my students, so I'm letting you use them for free. If it were anyone else, you can recover on your own." Shui Bolon could only shake his head helplessly. "Alright, rest up. When you guys are fully recovered, we'll head to the next dragon bandit's lair." The students didn't have any complaints. Although they had failed to suppress the bandits just now after that fierce battle, they had experienced the cruelty of real combat. At the same time they had also learned a lot. They had learned to not hold back when facing their enemies. He had learned that when facing an enemy he had to put aside all the principles of Jianghu, etiquette, justice, integrity and shame. Only if he could survive would he have the chance to talk about these things. At the same time they also learned a lot of combat skills. Some of the moves that they thought were cool before were useless in battle. They learned that in a battle of life and death they should throw away all the fancy tricks. Instead he used the simplest and most direct movements to greet the opponent's most fatal weakness. They rested for more than half an hour. This half an hour was mainly for the students to recover mentally. His body only needed 5 minutes to recover. However, they had just experienced such a great battle, and it would be difficult for them to recover in a short period of time. Immerse had given them half an hour of rest, but it was far from enough for them. But that was exactly what Immerse wanted. According to him, giving these students half an hour of rest was already more than enough. On a real battlefield, the enemy wouldn't be so nice as to give you half an hour to rest. If it was a large battlefield, the beginning of the battle may take a few hours or even more than 10 hours. Would the enemy give me time to rest during this period? When Immerse was on Earth he faced hundreds of millions of zombies. Who would give you time to rest in the wild at that time? As soon as you encountered a zombie you had to fight immediately. And at that time his recovery ability was far less than the current students. Didn't he survive? After half an hour most of the students had not recovered mentally. Among all the students, only Golden Sword and Earth City looked normal. Golden Sword had always been sharp and there was nothing wrong with his quick recovery. Earth City, on the other hand, didn't participate in any battle at all. Just one move and the other side was finished. Therefore he hardly needed any recovery time. It was just that he had just turned into a mountain which made him a little tired. The body of a planet is different from the general dragon. The body of a planet doesn't care how much energy there is in the body. It's about perception. As long as you perceive it, even if there is no energy in the body, you can turn into a mountain. The body of a planet only needs physical strength. The better the physical strength, the longer the time you can turn into a mountain. Right now, Golden Sword could only last for more than 10 seconds at a time. Therefore, Immerse had given him 2 tasks these days. One was to perceive the body of a planet and the other was to train his physical strength. And these could be done in an extremely short time in Earth space. At the same time, Immerse also had a plan. After eliminating the dragon bandits here, he would let these students enter his Earth space for a period of secret training. The reason why he didn't bring them in before was that he wasn't familiar with these students. He didn't know their morals. Now, after a period of understanding, coupled with their admiration for Immerse in their hearts, Immerse was completely at ease with them. The Misty Mountains were very big. With the students' flying speed, it took more than an hour to reach the second dragon bandit lair. When they landed in the dragon bandit lair, The students looked at the cave entrance and were all very surprised. The misty mountains were full of fog. The visibility was less than 10 meters. Even if they used the perception ability of a giant dragon, they could only sense a range of 100 meters at most. Perhaps even the dragon bandits who had been living here all their lives would get lost if they flew in the air like them. How did the instructor distinguish the path? Moreover, these dragon bandits had been here for hundreds of years, and the government couldn't do anything to them. They couldn't find the path here either. How did the instructor know where the dragon bandits were? Of course, they didn't know that their instructor wasn't just a powerful super-evolved giant dragon. He was also a level 10 Long Xianxia. In the 10,000 Dragon Star Zone, Long Xianxia wasn't as strong as on Earth or the Flaming Land. After all, everyone was a giant dragon. It was very difficult to hurt them with Dragon Will. But Dragon Will was still very useful. Its greatest use was to scout out the situation in the surroundings. On the Flaming Land, the highest was level 10 Long Xianxia. And because Dragon Will didn't add much to battle, very few Long Xianxia would spend the effort to cultivate to level 10. Usually they would cultivate to level 5 or level 6 or level 7 at most. That was because Dragon Will was harder to cultivate at the later levels. And giant dragons would spend more time on their own leveling up, so they naturally didn't pay much attention to cultivating Dragon Will. Chapter 604. Because there were no dragons to focus on cultivating their Dragon Will, Immerse's level 10 Long Xianxia surprised these students. Next, Immerse let the students analyze the enemy's situation and come up with a corresponding attack plan. Occasionally he would give some guidance from the side. Half an hour later, these students finished their analysis and discussion, and then began to implement their plan. Another half an hour later the plan was successfully implemented. Of course this plan did not include Earth City. Earth City was too strong. If it killed all of them in an instant, what else was there to plan? And in order to train their abilities, they could not let Earth City kill them in an instant. The result was obvious. These students were beaten up by the dragon bandits until they could not take care of themselves. But this time it was better than last time. This time they first let Kong Ming do a wave of control, then let the Ice Beauty do another wave of control. Then the water element Water Ripple did a wave of control. The 3 consecutive waves of crowd control lasted for a total of 10 seconds. The rest of the students took advantage of these 10 seconds to kill 8 dragon bandits. This made Immerse very happy. The most gratifying thing for a teacher was to see the improvement of his students. However, these students killed the 8 dragon bandits, which made the rest of the dragon bandits furious. They crazily took revenge on them. These students were soon beaten to a pulp. At this moment, Immerse used the Dragon Will to pull these students back. At the same time, Earth City moved again. It turned into a mountain and pressed down. All the dragon bandits were instantly destroyed. In Immerse's mind, the dragon slaying points increased by more than 50. Dragon slaying points, 388,500. In the next 2 days, they destroyed 6 groups of dragon bandits. The students improved more and more. When they destroyed the 6th dragon bandit group, they were no longer being beaten up one-sidedly. Instead, they were able to fight the dragon bandits to a draw. One had to know that their numbers had always been inferior to the dragon bandits. Moreover, these dragon bandits were all people who licked blood on the blade, desperados. With 1/3 of the dragon bandits' numbers, it was already quite an achievement to be able to fight them to a draw. Immerse originally wanted to let the students train for a few more days. Unfortunately, there were only so many dragon bandits in the Misty Mountains and they were all wiped out. Immerse could not help but shake his head. Squad leader Shui Bolin asked, "Instructor, why did you shake your head? Is it because we didn't do well enough?" Immerse asked, "What do you think?" Shui Bolin thought for a moment and said, "Compared to those students of the same level, we have already done very well." Immerse shook his head. "It's too small. I've seen someone who, at your level, was already invincible against anyone below the super-evolved colossal dragon." Shui Bolin shook her head. "What's so strange about that? Isn't the golden sword also able to do the same?" Immerse smiled. "Xianxia is good at one-on-one fights, but the person I know is good at one-on-one fights. 1 against 100, 1 against 1,000, they're still ignorant of those below the super-evolved colossal dragon." Shui Bolin shrugged his shoulders. "That's not surprising. Tuching Earth City can do 1 against 1,000. Immorse shook his head again. Teaching Earth City needs someone to cooperate and control the enemy within the range of his big move to show great lethality. And the person I know doesn't need the cooperation of others at all. Shuttling through thousands of troops, he can also stroll leisurely. Mu Wanqing lowered her head and asked in a low voice, "Instructor, the person you're talking about is yourself." Immorse smiled but did not answer. The students were all curious. Their tutor was able to train them to such an extent in just 2 months. Their instructor's strength must be extraordinary. It was very likely that he was a super-evolved colossal dragon. But as for how strong their instructor was, they had never seen it. "Instructor, your realm should be a super-evolved colossal dragon, right? Is it rank 1 or rank 2? Teaching Earth City asked. Immorse still smiled and did not answer. "If there's a chance in the future you may see it." Seeing that Immorse did not answer their questions, the students could only give up. But in private they guessed that Immorse was very likely a rank 1 super-evolved colossal dragon. There were only about 10,000 rank 1 super-evolved colossal dragons in the entire Cloud Sea Star. With such a person as their instructor, their ancestors' graves would probably be smoking. Of course, there were also people who guessed that he was a rank 2 super-evolved colossal dragon. There were only 5 or 6,000 of them in the entire Cloud Sea Star. If their instructor was really rank 2, their ancestors' graves would probably be on fire. As for rank 3 or 4, they did not even dare to think about it. There were only a few hundred rank 3 super-evolved colossal dragons in the Cloud Sea Star. There were only 70 or 80 rank 4 ones. Each of them was a big shot. How could they come to the Cloud Sea Academy to teach students? What they did not know was that when they killed those dragon bandits, Immorse had already advanced to a rank 6 super-evolved colossal dragon. A rank 6 super-evolved colossal dragon was a unique existence in the entire Cloud Sea Star. Even the Star Lord of the Cloud Sea Star was only a rank 5 super-evolved colossal dragon. In the entire star field, only those who reached rank 5 and above could become Star Lords. In other words, Immorse's strength now did not lose to any Star Lord. Even if his level was lower than theirs, with Immorse's ability to challenge those of a higher level, he could fight them head-on. So on any planet he could walk sideways, vertically or diagonally. He could walk however he wanted. At this moment, Immorse looked at the dragon slaying points in his mind. Frowny face. Dragon slaying points 11210000. It would be difficult for him to level up again in the short term. Unless Immorse went on a killing spree and slaughtered all the colossal dragons on the planet. In that case he could quickly become an ancient colossal dragon. But he did not know much about the star field. Who knew if there were some hidden big shots that could kill him with one slap? So now Immorse still adhered to one principle: develop wretchedly and don't be reckless. If he wanted to be reckless, he would nurture these students and let them go out and do whatever they wanted. Since there were no more dragon bandits in the Misty Mountains, Immorse planned to bring these students back to the academy to take the final exam. But they had just flown for more than 1,000 kilometers when Immorse suddenly stopped. The students also stopped. Immorse turned to the right and said, "All of you step back." The students knew that when they encountered something stronger than them, the teachers would usually let them deal with it themselves. Now that the teacher was telling them to step back, it meant that this thing was far from what they could deal with. Soon they sensed that thing. Everyone's expression changed drastically. Because within their range of perception, they could not see the full appearance of that thing at all. This was enough to show that the thing was huge. Some students hurriedly turned on their multifunctional watches and opened the Star Beast Cub level test software. Soon the test results were out. And in the past the test results only showed the level. This time the screen kept flashing with a red light and a warning sound. Warning: you have encountered a 250-year-old Star Beast Cub. It is equivalent to a rank 5 super-evolved colossal dragon. Please avoid it as soon as possible. Please avoid it as soon as possible. Hearing this, all the students were stunned. 250-year-old Star Beast Cub? Equivalent to a rank 5 super-evolved colossal dragon. An existence on the same level as a Star Master. Chapter 605. All 20 students were dumbfounded when they saw the feedback on their multifunctional watches. A 250-year-old Star Beast Cub. It was equivalent to a level 5 super-evolved giant dragon. Even if all 20 of them transformed into giant dragons, they would not be able to defeat this Star Beast Cub. Even Earth City, which had a planetary body, was nothing in front of this star beast cub. It could slap him back to his original form with just a tail. All the students looked at Immerse involuntarily. They thought that even the instructor would not be able to do anything in front of this star beast cub. After all, the star beast cub was equivalent to a level 5 super evolved giant dragon. No matter how strong the instructor was, he was only a level 2 super evolved giant dragon. There was a difference of 3 levels. How could they fight? Also, they could not turn around and run when they encountered a star beast cub. Because if they ran, it would be equivalent to showing weakness. The star beast cub would chase after them like a dog. Then it would be over. They had never encountered such a situation before. No matter how strong the star beast cub they encountered before was, there was always an instructor behind them. They did not need to panic at all. But this time they were really panicking. However, when they looked at Immerse, they only saw Immerse say to them indifferently, "Don't worry. Wait here." The next moment they flew toward the star beast cub. They did not even have time to shout. Soon the instructor had already flown out of their perception range. They could only hear a huge sound coming from that direction, as if a meteorite had fallen to the ground. Then there was a huge shockwave that caused the thick fog to tumble. They were also sent flying for about 5 kilometers by this huge shockwave. The next moment, everyone's expression changed drastically. Because in their perception the star beast cub was flying toward them. Everyone hurriedly scattered in all directions. The next moment, a star beast cub that was more than 10 kilometers long and shaped like a giant coon streaked across the thick fog in front of them. Just looking at this giant coon made everyone's hair stand on end. In front of this giant coon they seemed so small. Even if they transformed into giant dragons that were thousands of meters long, they were not worth mentioning at all in front of this giant coon. However, this giant coon flew past them for a few seconds before it started to fall rapidly. Finally, it crashed to the ground. The mountain below collapsed with a loud bang. The forest below the mountain was crushed by the huge rocks and the giant leviathan's body, making cracking noises. All the students' faces were filled with shock. More than 10 seconds later, the giant leviathan below remained motionless. Only then did they realize that the giant leviathan wasn't flying towards them. Instead, he was smashed by a huge force. It was as if an invisible giant hand had strangled the giant coon and thrown it over. Moreover, the giant leviathan's entire body had been sealed in ice. When it landed on the ground, ice shards scattered everywhere. Just as they were all trembling in fear, the teacher's figure appeared in the thick fog in front of them. The teacher glanced at them and said, "Let's go." Then he turned around and flew forward. All the students suddenly realized something at this moment. All of them looked at their teacher in disbelief. Wait, this was an instant kill? Teacher actually killed a giant leviathan in seconds? A giant leviathan equivalent to a tier 5 super evolved colossal dragon. Good heavens! Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. He was so shocked that he couldn't react for a long time. That meant that the teacher was at least a tier 6 super evolved colossal dragon. After reaching the level of a super evolved colossal dragon, the gap between each tier was huge. Therefore, a tier 6 super evolved colossal dragon could easily kill a creature equivalent to a tier 5 super evolved colossal dragon. Hiss, teacher, he's a tier 6. Oh my god, what did this mean? It meant that the teacher's strength was even stronger than the Star Lord. It meant that on the entire Cloud Sea star, the teacher was undoubtedly the ceiling of combat strength. It meant that as long as the teacher was willing, he could completely take over the ruling rights of a planet. Why aren't you leaving? Are you going to stay here and feed the giant leviathan? Immerse's voice came from the thick fog in front of them. This pulled all the students back to reality. Then they were all extremely excited. They hurriedly followed the teacher's figure. With such a teacher, they didn't know how many good deeds they had done in their previous lives and how much merit they had accumulated. If their relatives and friends knew about this, they would be shocked. Imagining the shocked expressions on their relatives' and friends' faces, they felt a burst of joy in their hearts. However, the teacher seemed to have seen through their thoughts. Don't mention what happened today to anyone, including your parents and friends. As your teacher, I'm used to keeping a low profile and don't want to be disturbed by outsiders. If you mention it, don't blame me for kicking you out of Year 6 Class 3. At the end, Immerse's voice revealed a trace of sternness. At the same time, Longwei instantly spread out. In the hearts of all the students, a sense of competition that seemed to come from their bones suddenly rose up. Then they secretly made up their minds to not reveal a single word to anyone. Because the teacher had never been so strict before. If they were to reveal it with the long way that the teacher displayed, they were afraid that he might really kill them. A teacher killing a student was originally a big deal. But the teacher was an existence that surpassed the Star-Lord, so it was a different story. Even the Star-Lord couldn't do anything to him, so who would dare to punish him? And they weren't stupid. To be able to follow such a teacher as a student was something that they had cultivated for 8 lifetimes. How could they ruin this opportunity so easily? That afternoon they returned to the academy. Along the way the students were very respectful to Immerse and were no longer as casual as before. Even if Immerse was more easygoing and even joked with them, they didn't dare to be as casual as before. When they returned to the academy and walked on the tree-lined path in the academy, the students who passed by all covered their mouths and snickered. The students of Class 6 Class 3 naturally knew what they were laughing about. They were laughing at the students of Class 6 Class 3 for being in such a sorry state. Many of their clothes were like beggars and their hair was dirty and messy. They didn't look like students but like they had escaped from somewhere. Even some of the teachers were a little surprised when they saw the students of Class 6 Class 3 like this. "Teacher Imo, your class is..." Immerse waved his hand and said, "Let them go to the slums to experience life. Otherwise, if they think that they are students of Cloud Sea Academy, they will always be high and mighty and not down to earth. I'm afraid it will hurt a lot." Those teachers all gave Immerse a thumbs up. Teacher Imo is so thoughtful. Next semester let our students experience life. When the students of those classes heard this, their faces immediately darkened. As for the students of Class 6 Class 3, although their appearance was sloppy, they were all very proud and arrogant at this moment. When the final exam was in a few days, their Class 6 Class 3 would definitely surprise everyone. Chapter 606. The Dean summoned all the teachers for a meeting. When the other teachers arrived, the Dean only nodded to them as a greeting. However, when Immerse arrived, the Dean stood up and welcomed him. He said warmly, "Teacher Imo is here. Come and sit." This made the other teachers feel strange. The Dean had always been very calm. Even in the face of a landslide, his expression would not change. Why was he so enthusiastic when he saw Teacher Imo today? Of course they did not know that the Dean had guessed that Immerse was a super-evolved dragon. As for Immerse, who was also a super-evolved dragon, the Dean naturally had a higher opinion of him than the other teachers. After all the other teachers had arrived, the Dean started the meeting. The content of the meeting was about the final exam. We have chosen to hold the final exam on the nearby Cloud Ridge planet. Cloud Ridge planet was a satellite of Cloud Sea planet. It was similar to the relationship between Earth and the Moon. Cloud Ridge planet was not big and it had not been developed before. It was completely untouched. The entire surface of Cloud Ridge planet was covered by plants. There were hundreds of millions of star beast cubs on Cloud Ridge planet. Occasionally, some schools would hold tests or exams here. The Dean said, "For this final exam, every student in every class will enter Cloud Ridge planet to hunt star beast cubs. In the end, we will choose the 20 students with the highest level and the highest number of star beast cubs to participate in the 100-star competition during the summer break." The so-called 100-star competition was a competition where each planet would send out 20 of their strongest students to participate in the competition. It was held every 4 years. It was the most important competition for these planets. Logically speaking, the schools of Cloud Sea planet should compete to choose the 20 most outstanding students. However, the Ocean of Clouds Academy had the ability to monopolize all 20 of them. Because according to the experience of previous years, the 20 spots would be taken by Cloud Sea Academy in the end. Therefore, after some discussion, they decided that there was no need to go through so much trouble to hold the internal competition of Cloud Sea planet. That would be a waste of time and dragon power. It was better to just give all the spots to Cloud Sea Academy. The Dean continued to speak and finally asked all 42 teachers, "Does anyone have any opinions or suggestions? Feel free to voice them out." The teachers all shook their heads. The Dean smiled and asked Immerse, "Teacher Imo, do you have anything to say?" All the instructors were shocked once again. It seemed like the Dean valued Instructor Imo a lot. What kind of background did he have? They didn't believe that Instructor Imo was that strong. To be valued by the Dean, one had to be at least at the super-evolved dragon level. Could this instructor Imo be a super evolved dragon? What a joke. Imo sure smiled and replied, that's right. I think that if it's fair, all 20 slots will be given to us. That way we won't have to waste time fighting for a spot. As soon as this was said, there was a moment of silence. Wasn't Instructor Imo too arrogant? Even if the dean thinks highly of you, you don't have to be so arrogant. Did he have any respect for the other instructors? This was especially true for the mentors of the graduating classes. They were all enraged. Instructor Imo, don't you think you're exaggerating? Instructor Imo, how long have you been here? You don't know the strength of the other classes. We don't blame you. But by saying such big words, you are not giving face to the other teachers of the other classes. Especially the teacher of Year 1 Class 0 Yu Yenran, who had a fiery temper. She slammed the table and stood up. Instructor Imo, don't think that just because you're leading a graduating class, the students in your class are stronger than the first years. Lei Ren from our class is strong enough to kill anyone in your class. Hee hee, Imo sure laughed. He sensed Lei Ren passing by the conference room. He immediately shouted, Lei Ren, come in. The conference room door was pushed open and Lei Ren walked in. When all the instructors saw Lei Ren, they couldn't help but size him up carefully. Yu Yenran had always been high profile. Such a genius from their class could actually challenge someone who was 5 ranks higher than him in the first year. Yu Yenran naturally wanted to publicize this matter. So much so that the entire academy already knew about Lei Ren. It wouldn't be a problem for this guy to challenge those 6th years. A mentor said, among the 20 spots at least one of them should be Lei Ren. Yeah, he's the only one in our academy who can challenge opponents who are 5 ranks higher. I think that if it's really fair, Lei Ren should be the one who gets a spot without having to compete. Recently there had been news about the final exam. Lei Ren had also heard some of it. Now that he heard these mentors say this and saw that they seemed to be targeting Immerse, he shook his head. No. You guys think too highly of me. Instructor Mo's students are far from what I can compare to. I think the top 20 should all be in Instructor Mo's class. Just give it to them directly and save time. The other mentors were stunned when they heard this. Especially Yu Yenran, who was dumbfounded. Lei Ren was usually very arrogant in the class. Not only in the class, even in the entire academy he wasn't afraid of the 6th years at all. After all, his strength was there. Many 6th years had to take a detour when they saw him. Why was he so afraid when he saw Immerse? Yu Yenran slapped Lei Ren. Why are you so cowardly? How is this the usual you? Lei Ren laughed dryly and said, actually my abilities were all taught by Instructor Imo before I entered the academy. Without him I wouldn't be who I am today. I was just a good-for-nothing playboy before and he could teach me like this. Most of the students in the 3rd class are geniuses. Instructor Imo has taught them for so long. Their strength must have improved by leaps and bounds. So I'm not a coward. I know my own name. By the way, Dean, can I transfer directly to Instructor Mo's class? As soon as this remark came out, everyone present looked at each other. Lei Ren was also taught by Instructor Imo? The dean and Yu Yenran had already known this. Yu Yenran snorted coldly. Lei Ren, you little traitor. Don't say that you are a student of our class in the future. Lei Ren was not afraid of Yu Yenran at all. Instead he said directly to the dean, Dean, you see, Instructor Yu doesn't want me anymore. I'm homeless. Please be merciful and let me transfer directly to the 3rd class of the 6th year. Yu Yenran was so angry that she gritted her teeth. The dean also shook his head and smiled bitterly. Although your strength is good, you still lack various theoretical knowledge. You have to start learning from the 1st grade. And don't you live with Instructor Imo? You can learn from him after school in the afternoon. Chapter 607. Immerse said arrogantly in the meeting room that they should be given to class 6-3. Of course, the dean couldn't really give them to class 6-3. The participants had to be selected through the academy's final exam. Following that, every class in the academy entered a state of intense preparation. Especially the 6th grade. They had studied for nearly 60 years and had experienced all kinds of theoretical knowledge and practice many times. In addition, their average level was the highest among all the grades, so theoretically they had the highest chance of getting a place. Therefore, their preparation work was even more intense. Their homeroom teacher basically spent the rest of his time in class these few days. other than eating and sleeping time. He told the students what to pay attention to, explained the knowledge of all kinds of star beast cubs, and explained all kinds of high-end combat techniques. The busiest classes were Class 6-1 and Class 6-2. Class 6-1 was an elite class and Class 6-2 was not far behind. In the final exam every year, the results of these two classes were in the top 3. The teachers of these two classes were far more serious and responsible than the teachers of the other classes. They couldn't wait to eat and live with the students. In the entire academy there was only one class. There was not the slightest bit of tension before the exam. Immorse still walked around the classroom every day and let the students prepare for the exam. When he had nothing to do, he would stay in the library and read electronic books to understand everything about the 10,000 Dragon Star region. When it was time, he would get off work on time and not stay for a minute longer. Every time at 5 p.m. after he got off work and left, the other homeroom teachers would always show a trace of disdain. This kind of teacher did not have a trace of seriousness and responsibility. When teacher Jean Pontu was here, Class 6-3 was always first in the grade. In terms of results, discipline and other aspects, no one could find any fault with them. But now teacher Imo? It was said that other than allowing the students to rise by one level, he was practically useless in other aspects. He couldn't teach theoretical knowledge and he didn't know about the various skills. He came to the academy as a complete loser. He even said that all the spots should be given to his class. What a joke. If they were given to his class, it would be the biggest joke. Just like that, 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. 3 days later, more than 800 students in the academy boarded a giant ship that was more than 10,000 meters long and flew to Cloud Billow Star. The other academies didn't have such a giant ship. In the entire Cloud Sea Star, only the Cloud Sea Academy had a single one. Even though it was a 10,000-meter long giant ship, it was still extremely fast. In just over half an hour they arrived at the Cloud Ridge Star. The captain chose a slightly flatter place and stopped. Then he set up a protective shield within a radius of 50 kilometers. In this way, the area within a radius of 50 kilometers around the giant ship was an absolute safe zone. Everyone can rest and exercise here. However, for these students, there was no opportunity to move at all. As soon as the giant ship landed, it meant that the examination had begun. They had to make the best use of their time and kill as many star beasts as possible within 3 days. Every student was equipped with a tracking device and a camera. If they were in danger, the academy's instructors could quickly rush to their location. Every teacher returned to their own rooms and watched their students in front of the monitor. At the same time, there was a huge screen in the control room. On it were real-time images taken by the cameras carried by all the students. If any student was in danger, the computer would immediately analyze it and then magnify the image of the student in danger and display it. Immorse scanned with his dragon's will. Within a radius of 1,000 kilometers, there weren't any strong star beasts. The strongest one was only 170 years old, which was equivalent to a rank 7 evolved giant dragon. For his students, any one of them could take on these star beasts alone. Only Tuching was able to do so because Immorse had been teaching him how to comprehend the formation of a planet and hadn't taught him any skills. However, he was able to use Mount Tai's crushing down every time. Therefore he seemed to be in a sorry state. When he encountered a star beast cub, he would often fight it with his bare hands. Moreover, he didn't use any moves or skills. It was completely a tortoise's fist. However, because he had a planet body, he was extremely strong. When facing a star beast cub that was 3 or 5 levels higher than him, he only needed one punch to knock it to the ground. As the screen was divided into 800 small panels, it displayed the images of 800 students. Therefore, the dean and the others hadn't noticed this yet. At this moment, Immorse didn't pay attention to this. Instead, he carried a pot of tea and went to the top of the giant ship. He sat on the deck, enjoying the breeze, drinking tea and admiring the scenery of Cloud Ridge Planet. The biggest characteristic of this place was one word: green. Looking around, the entire surface was covered in green plants. The air was naturally fresh. If there weren't outsiders, he would have let them out to enjoy the beautiful scenery together. At the same time, in the main control room, after the dean and the leaders of the academies confirmed that everything was on track, they said, "Show me the images of the students of Class 6-3. Others didn't know, but he knew. Instructor Mo of Class 6-3 was a super evolved giant dragon. Since he dared to say that all the slots should belong to Class 6-3, There must be something special about him. Soon, the 20 students of Class 6 to 3 were magnified and displayed on the big screen. When all the instructors saw the students of Class 6 to 3 on the big screen, they all sucked in a breath of cold air. The golden sword was an extremely sharp energy sword. Wherever it passed, it was basically insta-killed. A 110-year star beast cub. Insta-killed. A 150-year star beast cub. Insta-killed. A 170-year star beast cub. Insta-killed. It wasn't just the golden sword. The other students might not be able to insta-kill them, but it was very easy for them to deal with these star beast cubs. All kinds of moves and skills emerged one after another. It was dazzling. Moreover, the recruitment of these students basically didn't have any fancy moves. They were usually the simplest and most practical. Compared to the students of Class 6 to 3, the other students were like a group of babies who had just learned to walk. In Class 6 to 3, the only student who looked to be in a sorry state was Earth City. However, the instructors didn't have much hope for him. He was famous for being at the bottom of the rankings in the academy. Since the first year, he hadn't advanced by one rank and hadn't learned a skill of the corresponding rank. However, just as they casually scanned the image of Earth City, their gazes froze. The casual expressions on their faces turned into extreme shock. Chapter 608. When the mentor's eyes casually scanned through the image of Earth City, they were all suddenly nailed to the frame of Earth City. The dean's eyes were also fixed on the image of Earth City. Then he hurriedly said, "Zoom in, zoom in, zoom in on this student." Soon the image of Earth City appeared in the center of the screen, completely covering the other images. On the screen, Earth City was in a sorry state. There were no skills or energy weapons. When a pangolin rampaged, breaking dozens of giant trees and pouncing towards him, Chu Feng was stunned. He looked left and right but couldn't find any place to hide. Left with no other choice, he could only awkwardly leap high into the air. When the pangolin beast came under him, he directly used his fist to smash the pangolin beast's head that was as big as a small mountain. Bang! The pangolin's huge head was suddenly smashed to the ground. Boom! The ground below had sunk more than 10 meters deep. It formed a huge pit with a radius of about 5 kilometers. At the same time, poof! The pangolin's head directly exploded. Blood splattered everywhere. The entire huge pit was suddenly covered with thick and sticky flesh and brain matter. All the mentors who saw this scene were so shocked that they couldn't say a word for a long time. Until a moment later, a mentor opened his mouth and said, "This is too strong. Just relying on physical strength, he can kill a pangolin that is 5 levels higher. This guy is too strong." The pangolin's body is very hard. It can often easily smash through a mountain. Its head is also very hard. Often many evolved giant dragons use energy weapons to form weapons, but it is difficult to penetrate the scales on its head. But this Earth City blew it up with one punch. Hey, this guy is really too shocking. At this time, Earth City in the image jumped out of the huge pit of flesh and blood. His whole body was blood red. Maybe it was the smell of blood that attracted other star beast cubs. Soon, another hammerhead beast ran over. This was also a strength type and defense type star beast cub. Earth City seemed to be chased to the point where he couldn't hide. And because the hammerhead beast was too fast, he didn't even have the chance to jump up this time. He could only turn back, bite the bullet, and extend his right fist. With his bare fists, he directly collided with the hammerhead beast's huge head. The hammerhead beast's head was about 100 meters tall and 500 meters wide. With his human body, it looked like a mosquito trying to hold up the head of an elephant. However, under such circumstances, the hammerhead beast was blasted more than 10 kilometers away by his attack. After landing on the ground, his head, which was almost invulnerable, actually cracked inch by inch. In the next moment it exploded. One had to know that this hammerhead beast had reached 170 years of age, which was equivalent to a rank 7 giant dragon. In other words, touching Earth City crossed the 6th order punch and killed the hammerhead beast. This was simply too shocking. Apart from the dean, all the other instructors present were filled with shock. None of these instructors could defeat an enemy that was 6 levels higher than them. It was impossible for him to even take a single blow head-on, let alone kill him with a single blow. Next, they saw that in just half an hour this guy basically circled one small beast at a time. He was simply unstoppable. It's hard to imagine how Earth City can become so strong. Previously he had always been at the bottom of the 6th years. Now he is like the first echelon of the 6th years. He, Golden Sword, Kong Ming and the others are the top of the 6th years. Yes, I think so. Actually, they did not know that Earth City was not in the first echelon. Instead, he was the strongest existence among all the 6th years. An existence that could instantly kill hundreds of dragon bandits. Obviously, Earth City only changed like this after Instructor Imo took over. In the past 50 years he has never displayed such strength. His strength has not changed at all for more than 50 years. Instructor Imo has only taken over for half a semester, and he has gone from the bottom of the entire academy to the first echelon in one fell swoop. This is simply inconceivable. Not only him, all the other students in class 63 are ridiculously strong. They are more than 10 times stronger than when Instructor Jean was leading them. Everyone can fight 2 or 3 levels higher or even 3 or 4 levels higher. Simply terrifying. Now I'm beginning to believe what Instructor Imo said before. At this moment what the dean was thinking about was the planetary body that Immorse had mentioned before. He naturally knew about the planetary body. The planetary body was very strong, but it required time to comprehend. But it took too much time to comprehend. Often dragons with planetary bodies would die of old age before they could comprehend anything. Only 1 in 10,000 could truly achieve a planetary body. That would require thousands or even tens of thousands of years to comprehend. But after Immorse took over class 63, it had only been 3 months and Earth City had already reached such a powerful level of strength. How did he do it? After the dean heard Immorse say that Earth City was a planetary body, he was thinking about how to provide better conditions for Earth City and how to think of a better way for him to comprehend. But in the past 3 months he could not think of any substantial help. But he did not expect that in just 3 months, Immorse would help Earth City become so powerful. From the looks of it, he was probably invincible below the super-evolved dragon. This made him even more surprised by Immorse. How did he do it? He used his perception to investigate. At this moment, Immorse was leisurely drinking tea on the deck. The other instructors were in their respective rooms, nervously staring at the screen. Comparing the two, it was obvious who was better. It was the second day. The instructors of the academy all came to the main control room early the next morning, because they wanted to see the results of the other students. Especially the instructors of class 61 and class 62, their hearts were filled with excitement, and their footsteps were exceptionally light. The results of the students in their 2 classes were very outstanding. Basically, every student had killed at least 10 star beast cubs. According to the historical exam results, being able to kill so many star beast cubs on the first day was already very good. However, when they came to the central control room, they saw that the big screen did not show the other students. Only 20 students were shown. They were all students of class 63. Earth City, 57, Golden Sword, 55, Ice Beauty, 53, Shui Bo Lan, 49, Mu Wanqing, 48, Kong Ming, 48. The student with the least number had reached 39. The best student had 15 more than the students in their 2 classes. This caused the 2 instructors of class 61 and class 62 to be stunned. At this moment, the conversation of a few leaders could be heard. They killed too quickly. There were not many star beast cubs around for them to kill, so they could only look around. That's right. They wasted all their time on traveling and searching for star beast cubs. Otherwise, I'm afraid that each of them would have killed over 100 star beasts today. The 2 instructors of class 61 and class 62 were petrified. Chapter 609. When the teacher in charge of class 6-1 and class 6-2 heard the words of the leaders, they were petrified. Class 6-3 was too much of a beast, right? How could their combat power be so strong? Could it be that they were only killing low-level star beasts? Thinking of this, there was still a glimmer of hope in their hearts. Then they continued to walk inside. When they came to the front of the big screen and saw the performance of the students on the screen, the 2 of them were petrified again. On the big screen, most of the students in class 6-3 were on their way to find star beast cubs. There were only 4 of them. One of them was Golden Sword and the other was Tuqing. Golden Sword condensed a golden sword aura in his right hand and instantly swept past the side of a 170-year-old star beast cub. Hiss! The The star beast cub's head was directly cut in half. It was killed on the spot. Teaching was even more direct. Facing a 150-year-old star beast cub, he actually used his fist to fight against the star beast cub's teeth. When the star beast cub opened its huge mouth and bit down on him, he punched out. Crack. The star beast cub's sharp teeth were directly broken. At the same time, this punch also exploded the star beast cub's entire head. Hiss. When the teacher in charge of Class 6-1 and Class 6-2 saw this, both of them gasped in shock. Most of the students in their two classes would probably take a detour when facing a 150-year-old star beast cub. Even if there was someone who could defeat a 150-year-old star beast cub, it would take a while. Who would be like this guy exploding it with one punch? He was simply an animal. The dean next to them was still smiling and asking, "Teachers, what do you think of this guy?" The teacher in charge of Class 6-1 and Class 6-2 looked at each other and could only smile awkwardly. Very strong. To be able to kill a 150-year-old star beast cub with his bare hands, he is indeed very strong. The dean laughed out loud. You didn't see the scene of him killing a 170-year-old star beast cub with one punch. The two teachers were petrified on the spot for the third time. In their two classes, none of them could kill a 170-year-old star beast cub. This guy killed it with one punch? Is this for real? At this moment the dean gave them another heavy blow. Oh, it's not just him. That golden sword, Shui Bolon, and Ice Beauty basically killed all the 170-year-old star beasts they encountered. The two instructors were numb. You look at me, I look at you. Finally, they looked at the dean at the same time. Then what about the others? The president shook his head. Only then did the two instructors' expressions look a little better. The headmaster continued, the others haven't encountered a 170-year-old astral beast cub yet. We only saw them instantly kill a 160-year-old star beast cub. Poof, poof. Invisibly, two sounds of blood spurting could be heard. If he could instantly kill a 170-year-old, then even if he couldn't instantly kill a 160-year-old, it shouldn't be a problem. This completely destroyed their last bit of hope. That instructor Mo, how exactly does he teach his students? The instructor of Class 6-1 said subconsciously. The dean said, I really don't know about that. But take a look at Lei Ren from Class 0. As the dean spoke, he asked the instructor beside him to bring up Lei Ren's image. Lei Renjing encountered a 160-year-old star beast cub. His right arm transformed into a dragon claw with lightning coiling around its tip. In the next moment he passed by the 160-year-old star beast cub. Rip. The 200-meter-long body of the 160-year-old astral beast cub was instantly torn in half. There wasn't even a trace of self-recovery. When the instructors of Class 6-1 and Class 6-2 saw this, they revealed looks of admiration. Lei Ren is a genius. It's not surprising that he can kill a level 160 astral beast cub. The dean smiled. Lei Ren was also taught by instructor Mo. When the instructors of Class 6-1 and Class 6-2 heard this, their eyes dimmed. The dean continued. And according to my understanding, before Lei Ren came to our academy, although he was taught in our academy, but in reality he wasn't very strong. He was known as the #1 spoiled brat within 1,000 kilometers. You can imagine how weak his combat strength is. Later, when school started, he took a half-semester leave. In fact, it was instructor Mo who brought him to special training. After the special training, Lei Ren reached the point where he could fight someone 5 grades above him. Also, according to instructor Yu, this isn't Lei Ren's full strength. If Lei Ren used his full strength, he might be able to reach the level of a super-evolved dragon. When they heard the dean's words, it wasn't just the instructors of Class 6-1 and Class 6-2. All the higher-ups of the academy sucked in a breath of cold air. In other words, a level 2 evolved dragon could defeat a level 10 evolved dragon? Other than the dean, all the instructors weren't as strong as Lei Ren? How did instructor Mo teach his students? This was simply like turning stone into gold. Moreover, to be able to bring Earth City, the last place, to such a state was completely turning something rotten into something miraculous. This was simply too inconceivable. Actually, they didn't know that with Lei Ren's current strength, it was impossible for him to defeat a level 10 evolved dragon. That was just an exaggeration that had been passed around. Lei Ren's true strength was only able to fight someone 5 grades above him. If he could truly master the second transformation of the Thunder Dragon 9 transformations, Then he would truly be invincible under the super-evolved dragon. However, these instructors were already shocked. Dean, after Instructor Jean left, we randomly found someone to replace him. I didn't expect to find a god-level instructor. The dean also sighed. I didn't expect it either. As he spoke, his consciousness probed out again. He found that Immorse had actually fallen asleep while leaning against the back of the chair. And his shiny saliva was flowing down. What kind of dragon was this? Originally, if it continued like this, there would be no problem for Class 6-3 to take the top 20 places. But on the last day of the exam, there was still a problem. On the big screen, a student from Class 5-5 who was hunting star beasts suddenly disappeared. The screen was filled with snowflakes. The tracker also failed. Their instructors hurriedly chased him to the location where he disappeared, but they couldn't find any clues. Then a student from Class 5-2 also disappeared. Then Class 6-1. Seeing this, the dean hurriedly ordered the instructors to order the students to withdraw immediately. However, after their orders were issued, they didn't receive any response. Then all the screens turned into snowflakes. All the students couldn't be contacted. Those instructors hurriedly searched everywhere. In the end, only 630 of the 800 students were found. There were still 170 students who were completely uncontactable. This included the 20 people from Class 6-3. The atmosphere in the entire academy suddenly became tense. After the dean counted all the students with a calm face, he found that the other classes had lost contact with a few students. And Class 6-3 had lost contact with the entire class. This caused everyone to be extremely surprised. Chapter 6:10. There were 170 students missing in the entire academy. But the missing students from the other classes seemed to be random. There was no pattern. 3 or 4, 4 or 5, or 7 or 8 students from each class were missing. Only the students from Class 6-3 were missing. This caused all the instructors to scratch their heads in confusion. The dean hurriedly sent out dozens of aircrafts and hundreds of drones to search the area with the missing students as the center. At the same time, the dean thought of Immorse and hurried over to ask for Immorse's opinion. Immorse said, "It seems that a spatial dragon took them all away." Could there be dragon bandits hiding in this forest? The dean asked. Immorse nodded. Judging from the situation just now, it is indeed possible. And they dared to kidnap those students in front of so many instructors. I think these dragon bandits are not ordinary. The dean was furious. If they dare to hurt my students, I will destroy all of them. Then the dean thought of something and asked Immorse. Why were only a few students from the other classes taken away, but your entire Class 6-3 class was taken away? Immorse smiled. These little brats were willing. What? Willing? The dean was puzzled. Ordinary students couldn't escape even if they wanted to, but the students of Class 6-3 were willing to be taken away? Immorse replied, yes. When they were about to kidnap 3 of the students, Kongming used his spatial ability to take the rest of the students and chase after them. What should we do? The dean's face was full of anxiety. Even if he was a super-evolved dragon, if something happened to so many students, he couldn't escape the blame. Immorse waved his hand. Dean, don't be impatient. Those dragon bandits took my students away. They should be the ones who should be afraid. The dean understood what Immorse meant. The students of Class 6-3 were powerful, and those dragon bandits might not be able to defeat them. But they were still students after all and had never experienced any fighting. How could they be a match for those ruthless dragon bandits? Even so, we still have to find them as soon as possible. The dean said. Immorse smiled. Don't worry, they will be back soon. Immorse's confidence was of course well-founded. If the dragon bandits had not taken away everyone in Class 6-3, Immorse might have been a little worried. However, after snatching away everyone from Class 6-3, Immorse wasn't worried at all. The students of Class 6-3 had fought the dragon bandits with real swords and spears. After training in the Misty Mountains, they were already familiar with the methods of the dragon bandits and how ruthless they were. And their attacks on the dragon bandits were absolutely ruthless. Especially Earth City, one person could destroy hundreds and thousands of dragon bandits. Therefore, there was nothing to worry about. However, even though Immorse said so, the dean didn't dare to do nothing. He continued to expand the search area, searching for traces of the students. However, there was no news at all. This made all the students and instructors in the academy extremely anxious. At the same time, in a place with picturesque hills and clear waters and smoke rising in spirals, the 170 students suddenly appeared at the same time. Along with them were 2 spatial element dragon bandits. As soon as these students appeared, more than 100 dragon bandits rushed out around them. These dragon bandits all looked ferocious and had all sorts of strange appearances. These students had never seen such a scene before. Some of the more timid ones fell to the ground in fright. Even the bolder ones retreated at this time. Seeing this, the 100 dragon bandits all laughed. They are all little bastards who have never seen the world. Look at that one, he is so scared that he peed himself, haha. The leader of the bandits also laughed when he saw this. A few days ago my master told me that the blood refinement technique needs to refine the blood of a giant dragon. Just one type of blood isn't enough. We have to gather the blood of all 5 elements, and the more the better. This is great, not only do we have the 5 elements but we also have the ice, poison and even poison attributes. The spatial element dragon bandit pointed at Kong Ming and said, "Boss, that kid also has the spatial element." When I brought these students back, he brought a few of them with him. When the students present heard this, their expressions changed drastically. It seemed that these dragon bandits were not ordinary dragon bandits, but dragons of the demonic path. There was such a giant dragon in the entire 10,000 dragon star zone. They felt that ordinary cultivation was too slow, so they took all kinds of shortcuts. Some of them sacrificed their own lifespan to cultivate, while others sacrificed the lives of other giant dragons to cultivate. The former was looked down upon by others and was called the demonic path. The latter was despised by 10,000 dragons. Once the entire 10,000 dragon star zone knew that there was a demonic dragon, they would gang up and attack it. Legend had it that the demonic dragons were all vicious and merciless, far from what the dragon bandits could compare to. The dragon bandits only wanted to kill dragons and steal their treasures. And these demonic dragons might not kill you in one go in order to cultivate. Instead, he's raising you so that he can cultivate and suck your blood every day. This was definitely a fate worse than death. Therefore, when they heard the bandit leader's words, many students were already trembling with fear and trepidation. They had lived in an ivory tower since they were young. Even when they went out to train, they had teachers by their side to protect them. They had never faced such a situation before. However, just as these students were trembling with fear, a ray of golden sword chi was instantly activated. Whoosh 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 whoosh. In a short 3 seconds, 5 rays of sword chi pierced through the heads of 5 dragon bandits. Not only that, dozens of icicles pierced through the heads of 3 dragon bandits. This change happened so suddenly that even the dragon bandits could not react in time. The students of class 6 to 3 retaliated. Lei Ren also retaliated with them. He had also killed dragon bandits with Immorse before. Lightning energy was released and instantly electrocuted 4 or 5 dragon bandits. In just 5 seconds, more than 40 dragon bandits had already fallen to the ground. The dragon bandits were all shocked and hurriedly wanted to fight. But soon the surrounding plants wrapped around their limbs like giant pythons. At the same time, a thick layer of ice formed on all the dragon bandits' bodies. The 2 layers of control made it impossible for them to fight back in a short time. Whoosh 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 whoosh. In another 5 seconds, more than 40 dragon bandits had fallen to the ground. Only now did the dragon bandits completely break free from the control. However, in just 10 seconds, more than half of the dragon bandits had been killed. This made the bandit leader very angry. He had thought that today would be a great harvest, but he did not expect that the ones he collected were all life-threatening ghosts. He really could not understand why these students were different from other students. He had seen many students on other planets, and those students were all so scared in front of him that they did not even dare to fart. Why the hell are these students so aggressive the moment they come up? Chapter 6:11. F***C kill him. The bandit leader was infuriated by the sudden change. With an angry roar, a beam of energy blasted towards Lei Ren. However, Lei Ren was paying attention to him. With a light leap he dodged the energy. Then he blasted towards the other dragon bandits. For a moment these dragon bandits were caught off guard. As for the remaining 150 students, they were all dumbfounded by what they saw. How could these students from class 6 to 3 be so valiant? They were even more valiant than the dragon bandits. Previously, some of them were not convinced of class 6 to 3. However, at this moment they were completely convinced. Especially for the two guys Golden Sword and Touching Earth City, they are even more admirable. One of them was a sword and the other was a small dragon bandit. Moreover, not only was Golden Sword's attack sharp, but his judgment and grasp of the situation was also quite accurate. He knew that among these dragon bandits, the most difficult one to deal with was the spatial attribute dragon bandit. With him around, these students would be easily controlled by his spatial attribute. It would be difficult for them to resist. Therefore, Golden Sword's first target was the spatial attribute dragon bandit. He stabbed him in half with one sword. The other was a small dragon bandit with one punch. The most terrifying one was Earth City. Although he did not seem to have any moves or skills, he just swung his fists and went up to fight. But none of the dragon bandits could withstand one punch from him. And basically, no matter where the punch landed, a huge hole would be blasted in that area. One had to know that the bodies of giant dragons were extremely tough. Even those specially forged swords would not be able to break through their defenses if they were not imbued with energy. Now, Earth City was actually able to destroy the bodies of these dragon bandits with one punch with just his physical strength. How strong must he be? Soon, under the encouragement of the 20 students from class 6 to 3, the other 150 students also stood up to resist. Naturally, they could not be as strong as the students from class 6 to 3. However, the giant dragon's self-healing ability was extremely strong. As long as you dared to let go of your hand, you would be able to overwhelm your opponent in terms of momentum. Those dragon bandits might seem very ferocious on a daily basis. But at this moment, they did not expect that these students would not only resist, but also resist so fiercely. For a moment they panicked. Especially when they saw the students from class 6 to 3 kill the dragon bandits in one move, they panicked even more. Therefore they immediately wanted to scatter and flee. However, they were slowed down by Mu Wanqing's control skill and the Ice Beauty's control skill. He was even slowed down by Kong Ming's control skill. After a few rounds of this, none of them were able to escape. In the end, a total of 133 dragon bandits were wiped out. Looking at the scattered corpses of the dragon bandits, the students from the other classes felt disgusted. Their stomachs were churning and they all bent over to vomit. Only the students of class 6 to 3, after their previous experience, were still a little disgusted by these things, but not to the point of vomiting. Even Mu Wanqing, who was usually the most timid, did not have any intention of vomiting at this moment. When the students from the other classes saw how valiant the students from class 6 to 3 were, their admiration for class 6 to 3 increased by a few points. Moreover, they were also in awe of the teacher in charge of class 6 to 3. Before Instructor Mo came, although class 6 to 3 was also very strong, they were far from reaching this level. Now Teacher Mo had only been here for 2 months and class 6 to 3 was simply inhumanly strong. It was certain that even if the mentors of the academy were here, they would not be able to do better. Following that, these students rested for about 10 minutes. Then they saw a drone in the distance searching in this direction. A moment later it found these students. At the same time in the giant ship. The mentors and a few higher-ups of the academy saw the students captured by the drone through the big screen. Those students were all covered in blood, which shocked the mentors. However, they saw that the students were at least still standing. If they could stand, their lives would not be in danger. This made the mentors heave a sigh of relief. At the same time, they saw more than 100 corpses lying around these students. They were even more shocked. Then the dean hurriedly sent people to bring these students back. They asked these students about the situation. When they heard that the students of class 6 to 3 had launched a counterattack, they were all shocked by the students of class 6 to 3. Originally, it was already quite shocking that more than 100 students had defeated more than 100 dragon bandits. Now the students of class 6 to 3 had already launched a counterattack while the students of the other classes were still in shock. In the end, half of these more than 100 dragon bandits were killed by the students of class 6 to 3. This shocked the mentors even more. They asked themselves, even if they encountered such a thing, it was very likely that they would not be able to achieve such a status. There were also some mentors who fantasized that if their students encountered such a thing and killed the enemies together, their students would be able to obtain a spot to participate in the 100-star tournament. However, even their students shook their heads. Compared to the students of class 6 to 3, they were far inferior. They had saved their lives. How could they dare to snatch their spot? Moreover, even if they snatched that spot, what could they do when the time came? With their strength, they would only be beaten up if they went up. Only the students of class 6 to 3 could shine on such a stage and spread the name of the Cloud Sea Academy. In the end, the dean decided to award the Cloud Sea Medal to these 178 students. This kind of medal was usually only given out a few spots a year, but this time 170 medals were given out at once. At the same time, other than the Cloud Sea Medal, the students of class 6 to 3 were also given the highest hero medal in the academy. One had to know that in the academy's tens of thousands of years of history, there were not many students who could obtain such a hero medal. Basically, it was obtained by the mentors. This time 20 medals were given out at once. This was really an eye-opener. As for the 20 spots to participate in the tournament, they were naturally taken up by the students of class 6 to 3. However, the dean decided to add a substitute spot at the last minute. And this substitute spot was given to Lei Ren, who was as brave and fierce as the students of class 6 to 3 during the battle. This decision made Yu Yanran very excited. She patted Lei Ren's shoulder and praised him. "Kid, you've grown up." Lei Ren shook his head. No, it's because you taught me well." Hearing this flattery, Yu Yanran immediately felt good. "Of course." Lei Ren shook his head again. "I'm talking about Mentor Imo." Yu Yanran's pretty face immediately darkened. Chapter 6:12. Those students killed more than 130 dragon bandits. Among them, there were more than 20 people in class 6 to 3, and they killed more than 60 dragon bandits. This increased Immerse's dragon slaying points by more than 60. Dragon slaying points. 1771000. Immerse looked at the dragon slaying points, but he was still not satisfied. If there were more of his students among these students, wouldn't he be able to get more dragon slaying points today? This gave birth to an idea. The students from other classes already knew how good his students were, and they all wanted to come to class 6 to 3. But they were limited by the school's rules, so they didn't have the chance. But wasn't the summer vacation coming soon? He could set up a summer tutoring class. As long as he tutored these students for more than 10 days, any dragon slaying points they killed in the future would be his. On the Cloud Sea planet there was no such thing as tutoring classes. Naturally, there was no rule to restrict the teachers from setting up tutoring classes. Thinking of this, Immerse couldn't help but feel excited. After returning to the school, the dean invited Immerse to his office and explained some of the plans for the 100-star tournament in detail. He asked Immerse to help with the planning. Immerse smiled. "Dean, do you think the students I've taught still need any plans? They could crush them directly with their strength. Why would they need any plans?" The dean nodded. Of course, the students taught by Teacher Imo are all much stronger than ordinary students. But we also need to be prepared. Just in case. Immerse nodded. "Dean, you're right. How about this? I'll leave all the plans and records to you. I'll just be responsible for my 21 students." The dean smiled bitterly and could only nod. At this moment he could already see that Immerse's strength was a level higher than his. In this world where strength was respected, Immerse's status was higher than his. So whatever Immerse said was the truth. In the blink of an eye, the summer vacation had arrived. The 100-star tournament would only start 20 days after the vacation. Immerse released the news in the school. Teacher Imo will be setting up tutoring classes during the summer vacation and recruiting students. Each class will be 10 days and each class is limited to 100 students. The tuition fee is 1,000 dragon coins per person. Right now, Immerse wasn't in the mood to spend 2 months to train in the mountains like he did with the 20 students of class 6 to 3. Each period was only 10 days long. In 10 days, these students would be recognized by the system as his students. In 10 days he had earned 100,000 dragon coins. Moreover, if there were more students, there would be more opportunities for talents to emerge. As a result, more people joined the army. By then, the number of people they killed on the battlefield would all be converted into their own dragon slaying points. Just thinking about it made him feel good. Someone asked why he didn't spend 2 months to focus on teaching 30 to 50 people and make them become students of class 6 to 3, who were far more outstanding than ordinary students. Of course not. Wouldn't that mean he wouldn't be able to collect so many dragon coins? Moreover, Immorse would definitely become the enemy of the entire 10,000 Dragon Star region in the future. Wasn't grooming so many powerful students the same as grooming so many powerful enemies for himself? Immorse had his own considerations for all of this. When Immorse released the news, the entire academy went crazy in an instant. All the students saw how powerful the students of class 6 to 3 were. Previously they had thought of all kinds of ways to enter class 6 to 3, but the academy's rules didn't allow it, so they could only regretfully miss it. They didn't expect that the instructor of class 6 to 3 would actually want to recruit students during the summer vacation. This was simply an opportunity given to them by the heavens. Of course, they didn't expect to be as powerful as the students of class 6 to 3 in 10 days. However, they heard that as long as Instructor Mo had taught students before, they would be able to make a breakthrough within a day. Just this point alone was worth 1,000 dragon coins. Thus, on the first day of the summer vacation he had recruited 100 students within the first minute. When he recruited students, it didn't matter how powerful you were, who introduced you, or how good your talent was. All of them were recruited on a first-come first-served basis. This also made the students who didn't have connections, financial resources, or talent to be reassured. As long as they had 10,000 dragon coins, they would definitely be able to enter the tutoring classes in the future. Immorse asked Lei Ren to compile the information of these people and arrange them according to the order of arrival. In the end, all 800 students of the academy had signed up. Since ancient times, no tutoring classes had been able to recruit students as quickly as Immorse. He glanced at the name list and said to Lei Ren, "Remove you in class 6 to 3 from the list." Lei Ren widened his eyes. "Don't, Brother Imo. You're teaching others, why don't you teach us? This isn't very good." Immorse glared at Lei Ren. "The 21 of you have been by my side every day. I've already taught you what I should have taught you. Right now, the strength of any one of you is enough to crush the top students of the other academies. Following me is just a waste of time." Lei Ren could only helplessly shake his head. However, he wasn't worried about himself. Anyway, Immorse lived in the same courtyard as him. If he didn't understand anything, he could ask him at any time. Very quickly, 10 days later, the time for the first semester had arrived. On the last day, Immorse brought them to Earth space to help them break through. Of course, although they had broken through in Earth space when they returned to the real world, they still hadn't broken through. However, because they had experienced the feeling of breaking through in Earth space, when they returned to the real world, this feeling wouldn't disappear. Therefore, their breakthroughs would be much faster. In just half a day, all 100 students had broken through. This shocked everyone once again. Helping 100 giant dragons break through in one day was completely beyond the understanding of the giant dragons. After becoming an evolved giant dragon, it would take 100 years for each level to break through. This was very normal. Now, Instructor Mo had helped all these students break through in half a day. This was simply shocking. In the next 20 days, Immorse helped another 100 students break through to the next stage. The remaining students couldn't wait any longer. However, because the 100-star tournament would be held tomorrow, they could only wait for it to end. At the same time, the news that Immorse could help 100 students break through every 10 days spread like wildfire. In just a few days, it had spread throughout the entire Cloud Sea Star. This news had even spread to other planets. However, many people on other planets treated this as a joke. They even said that Immorse was a swindler. Immorse didn't care about this. At the same time, the news that the students of class 6 to 3 led the 150 students to kill more than 130 dragon bandits didn't spread. This was because the dean had specifically instructed all the instructors to keep this news a secret. If this news was leaked, the students from other planets who were participating in the tournament would be on guard. Therefore, in order to catch them off guard, none of the students could leak this news. The students were all very self-aware. After all, this was related to the honor of the entire academy. They were part of the Cloud Sea Academy, so they naturally had to do their part for the academy. Chapter 6:13. Finally, on this day the 100-star tournament began. As the teacher and teacher of the 20 students, Mo sure naturally had to go. He also took the opportunity to learn more about the nearby planets. Although he had read a lot of information before, he couldn't understand anything just by looking at the information. He had to learn from all angles. The dean, a few leaders of the academy, Yu Yenran, Lei Ren, and the teachers and students of class 6 to 3. A total of 30 people rode a small spaceship and headed to the venue of the tournament, Martial Arts Planet. After reaching the level of evolved giant dragon, every giant dragon could fly in the air. However, their flying speed was far slower than a spaceship. Therefore, when going to other planets, they would usually take a spaceship. After flying for more than an hour, they finally arrived at Martial Arts Planet. The Martial Arts Planet was an artificial planet built by hundreds of nearby planets. The planet was not big, only about the size of Earth in the past. The entire Martial Arts Planet was built from solidified meteorite lava from the depths of the starry sky. It was extremely sturdy. Basically, giant dragons below the level of evolved giant dragon could not cause any damage to Martial Arts Planet. Even if a super evolved giant dragon used its full strength, the damage it could cause to Martial Arts Planet was very limited. Moreover, after the damage, it was not as difficult to repair as other planets. The repair of Martial Arts Planet was relatively simple, as long as the damaged areas were melted and molded. The reason why the hundreds of nearby planets built Martial Arts Planet was for the super-evolved giant dragons to spar with each other. The super-evolved giant dragon's destructive power was too strong. No matter which planet they fought on, it would cause irreversible damage to the planet. Therefore, it was necessary to build such a martial arts planet. However, the number of super-evolved giant dragons was small, so there were even fewer spars between them. Therefore, Martial Arts Planet was often idle. Later, everyone discussed and finally decided to hold the 100-star tournament once every 10 years on Martial Arts Planet. Of course, most of the time, everyone could rent Martial Arts Planet. When the teachers and students of Cloud Sea Academy arrived at Martial Arts Planet, there were already many teachers and students from other planets. When these people saw Cloud Sea Academy arrive, they all more or less showed a trace of disdain. Tisk, it's that academy that always ranks last in every tournament. If you ask me, they should just not participate in the 100-star tournament. It's a disgrace. Since ancient times, the Cloud Sea planet has never been able to advance in anything. This is understandable. The dean and the instructors naturally knew what these people were talking about. During the 100-star competition of the past, Ocean of Clouds Academy had suffered the cold gazes of the other academies. But there was nothing they could do about it. Who asked them to be so weak? In this world where strength was respected, if you were not strong enough, then don't blame others for making irresponsible remarks about you. But this time the dean and the instructors looked at each other and sneered in their hearts. All of you will know how strong our academy is once the 100-star competition begins. It wasn't exaggerated to say that the students participating in the 100-star competition this time were the strongest in the history of the academy. At this moment, a spaceship flew over from the horizon. There were 2 large golden words on the ship, Golden Crow. The teachers and students of the other academies all turned their heads to look at the spaceship. Their words were filled with envy. The Golden Crow Academy from the Golden Crow planet is here. The Golden Crow Academy has won the championship 4 times in the last 500-star tournaments. Based on their current strength, they are a unique existence amongst all the other academies. I heard that the students of their academy are ridiculously strong this time. Basically, all of them are at the 8th rank or above. There are even 2 at the 10th rank. Yeah, they even poached an instructor from another planet. That instructor's teaching standard is rather high. With such an instructor guiding such students, it would be difficult for them to not win the championship. Alas, looks like we'll be accompanying them again. It didn't take long for the instructors and students of the Golden Crow Academy to disembark from the spaceship. Even though their expressions didn't change, it was obvious from their eyes that they were very proud. They had an innate sense of superiority when facing students from other planets. Their dean glanced at the other deans, and then his gaze descended onto the dean of Ocean of Clouds Academy. He walked over with large strides. The instructor who led the group behind him was the one who'd been poached from Ocean of Clouds Academy, Jean Pontu. The dean of Golden Crow Academy arrived before the dean of Ocean of Clouds Academy and patted him on the shoulder. "Huh, old fellow, you're still alive?" The dean of Ocean of Clouds Academy roared with laughter as well. You're still alive, so how could I dare to die first? The Dean of Golden Crow Academy spoke sarcastically. Don't place last in this competition. Even my heart aches for you. They were old friends who'd known each other for over 10,000 years. They often spoke sarcastically to each other. However, when it came to the competition, it was the Dean of Golden Crow Academy who spoke more sarcastically to the Dean of Ocean of Clouds Academy. The Dean of Ocean of Clouds Academy had no choice but to grit his teeth and swallow it. However, he was filled with confidence this time because he had the students of Class 6-3 with him. However, he didn't show it on the surface. He wanted to give the Dean of Golden Crow Academy a huge surprise in the end. He even couldn't wait to see the Dean of Golden Crow Academy's surprise and disbelief. The Dean of Ocean of Clouds Academy couldn't help but feel delighted when he thought about how the other deans would react. At this moment, Jean Ponta led 20 students over to the students of Class 6-3. Glancing at the 20 students he had once taught, he chuckled. All of you are doing well. The students of Class 6-3 were angry. People always wanted to climb higher. The Golden Crow Academy gave them a lot of money, so it was normal for them to go there. However, they had to at least finish teaching in this academy. At the very least, they had to inform the academy in advance so that they could be prepared and find other substitute instructors. However, they didn't do anything before and they just left after talking to the dean. They left Class 6-3 behind. That was simply too unkind of him. The class monitor Shui Bolan snorted. Very good. Jean Ponta laughed. I'm very surprised that all 20 of you can participate in this competition. It seems that you've been working hard after I left. Shui Bolan snorted again. Do you think we can't live without you? Behind Jean Ponta, the 20 students of Golden Crow Academy were all unhappy when they heard that. It's you who are too weak. Instructor Jean is not willing to teach you. The planet at the bottom, the academy at the bottom, and the students at the bottom. Who the hell is willing to teach you? After that, they turned around and left. The students of Class 6-3 all glared at them angrily. Immorse looked at the backs of those students and Jean Ponta and said to the students of Class 6-3, if you meet them, beat them to death. Chapter 6:14. There were more than 100 planets, more than 100 academies, and each academy had 20 students. In total, there were more than 2,000 students. The organizing committee of this tournament started with the lot drawing ceremony. This tournament used an elimination system. No matter who the student was, as long as they lost a match, they would be eliminated. This system was quite cruel to the students, but they had no choice. Living in this 10,000 Dragonstar region, they had to face such cruel rules. This was the so-called natural selection and survival of the fittest. Class 6-3 students finished their lot drawing. The dean and a group of academy leaders led Class 63 students into the inner part of the planet. The inner part of the planet was hollow, and there were all kinds of living and entertainment facilities. Basically, when the instructors and students of each academy entered the planet, they started to study intensely and explained all kinds of martial arts knowledge to the students. Only Yunhai Academy's instructors were very relaxed when they entered the inner part of the planet. After entering the inner part of the planet, Immorse directly told the students that he was tired and wanted to sleep. They were free to do whatever they wanted. Then he went into his room. He didn't care about the students anymore. The students were happy to be free. They strolled around the streets here and played in the entertainment places there. They had a lot of fun. On the other hand, the students of the other academies were locked in their rooms to train alone. They didn't go out for the whole day. When the masters of the other academies saw that the students of Yunhai Academy didn't do their jobs, they all laughed in their hearts. Yunhai Academy really didn't improve. Who said they didn't? They were last place every year and they still didn't learn their lesson this year. Especially Jean Ponta, when he saw how relaxed the students of Class 63 were, he couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. The good seedlings I brought were all ruined by that instructor. When the dean of Jinwu Academy saw this, he also shook his head. That old guy's academic skills were getting worse and worse. He brought a bunch of rubbish. The students of Yunhai Academy naturally knew how the others thought of them, but they didn't show it on their faces, but they were laughing coldly in their hearts. Laugh, laugh, laugh all you want. When tomorrow's 100-star tournament starts, it will be too late for you to cry. If there were words, it would be long. If there were no words, it would be short. The night quickly passed. At 9 o'clock in the morning on the second day, all the instructors and students came to the surface of the planet again. On the surface of the martial duel planet, there were a total of 100 huge circular battle arenas. Each arena had a radius of 10 kilometers. Around the Colosseum, there were spectator seats that could accommodate tens of thousands of people. Although the spectator stands were far from the center of the arena, the dragons were able to see everything clearly with their eyesight. However, all the students were divided into 100 arenas, so it was impossible for the audience to watch all 100 arenas. Therefore, there were over 100 giant screens floating in the air above the arena. Through these giant screens, the audience could easily see the situation in each arena. None of the activities in the 10,000 Dragon Star area had the lengthy speeches of the leaders on Earth. Therefore, under the referee's command, the battles of the 200 students in the 100 arenas began at the same time. There were 3 students from class 6 to 3 in the first round. The 3 of them basically finished the battle with a single move. However, there were too many students on the field, so no one paid any attention to them. Everyone's attention was on the contestants from the Golden Crow Academy and the other seeded academies. Finally, after the first round, the 3 students from the Golden Crow Academy had won. Almost everyone was busy congratulating the Golden Crow Academy, so they ignored the fact that the 3 students from the Cloud Ocean Academy had won more easily than the Golden Crow Academy. On the contrary, Instructor Jean from the Golden Crow Academy was surprised to see that the 3 students from class 6 to 3 had all advanced. Yo, I didn't expect you guys to advance too. Not bad. He didn't hide the ridicule on his face as he spoke to Immerse. Immerse couldn't be bothered with such a person and didn't even bother to talk to him. However, this didn't make Instructor Jean leave. Instead, it made him even angrier. I'm a real gold medal instructor and you're just a substitute instructor. How dare you ignore me? When your students encounter the Golden Crow Academy, it'll be too late for you to cry. In the next few rounds, the students from the Golden Crow Academy and the Cloud Ocean Academy all advanced. As the total number of people had reached more than 1,000, no one paid attention to the Cloud Ocean Academy. Everyone was busy celebrating the advancement of the Golden Crow Academy's students. Instructor Jean, you're really good. All your students advanced. The Golden Crow Academy is worthy of being a gold medal academy. All of them advanced in the first round. How enviable. Looks like the champion this year will be the Golden Crow Academy again. The first round ended in the afternoon, and the second round would be held the next day. Because the strengths of the students that were able to enter the second round were even stronger, the instructors of the various academies were concentrating on guiding their students, and they instilled all sorts of theoretical and practical knowledge into their students. On the other hand, the students of Ocean of Clouds Academy were still wandering about freely on the streets and scenic spots. Many instructors and students couldn't stand it anymore. Sure enough, they're here on a public holiday. I wonder why such an academy and such instructors still exist. If they were on our planet, they wouldn't even live for half a year. However, only those students who were defeated by the students of the Cloud Ocean Academy today realized how powerful the students of the Cloud Ocean Academy were. Their instructors also realized how powerful the Cloud Ocean Academy was. Basically, as soon as they met, they cupped their fists and bowed, and in the next second, their students were directly knocked down to the ground. They had never seen such powerful students before. They were simply heaven-defying existences. Did they even suspect that these people were students? Could it be that they were teachers of the academy in disguise? However, when they mentioned this to the instructors of the other academies, they were rolled their eyes at. They said that it was an excuse for their elimination. The second round continued on the second day. The students of the Cloud Ocean Academy still won. Of course, no one paid attention to them because all the attention was on the Golden Crow Academy and the other seeded academies. The Cloud Ocean Academy was still the target of ridicule. But this time there were much fewer people who ridiculed them, because many who ridiculed them before were defeated by them. However, this wasn't the goal of the Cloud Ocean Academy. Their goal was to defeat the Golden Crow Academy and Instructor Jin's students. Because there were only 500 students left, the 20 of them would very likely encounter the students of the Golden Crow Academy tomorrow. At that time they would show everyone how powerful the Cloud Ocean Academy was. Chapter 6:15. The next morning, all 2,000+ students and instructors came to the surface of the 5 Stars Battle Arena. There were over 1,000 students participating in today's competition, and the Golden Crow Academy from planet Golden Crow was still the most favored. Their strength was indeed far superior to the students from other academies. The first 3 students defeated their opponents within 5 seconds. This was an eye-opener for all the instructors and students present. That Jin Ming from the Golden Crow Academy is so powerful. He defeated his opponent in 5 seconds. That Tu Hao is also very strong. His pair of hammers are swinging vigorously and his defensive skills are dazzling. And that Kong Se is actually a rare spatial attribute expert. His spatial skills are impossible to guard against. The other academies can only pray that they won't be beaten to death if they encounter these students from the Golden Crow Academy. At this moment, another student from the Golden Crow Academy entered the arena. This student was Jin Ming's twin and his name was Zhou Xian. He used a pair of swords and killed his opponent in one hit in the last round. His opponent just happened to be Jin Jian from the Ocean of Clouds Academy. The competition was about to begin, and the contestants from both sides entered the arena. Everyone was still optimistic about the students from the Golden Crow Academy. This Jin Xiang and Jin Ming are brothers, right? They look so similar. That goes without saying. They're obviously twins. Since Jin Ming is so strong, Jin Xiang shouldn't be too bad. Of course. I heard that they have the same talent since they were young and their speed of advancement is the same. Their strength is about the same. Moreover, look at his opponent, he is from the Ocean of Clouds Academy. Why don't you take a look at what the Ocean of Clouds Academy has been doing these past 2 days? Others are revising and cultivating while they are strolling on the streets. It would be unreasonable if they still want to get a good ranking. Get the hell down from the Ocean of Clouds Academy. Don't go up and embarrass yourselves. Don't you see how strong the Golden Crow Academy is? You're just looking for a beating. When Jin Xiang heard these discussions, he didn't pay any attention to them. A faint smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Jin Jian naturally heard these discussions and curses, but he didn't care. His face didn't have any expression. What he was thinking in his heart would be known by the 3 of them later. At the same time, all the teachers and students from the Ocean of Clouds Academy had the same thought. They couldn't wait to see the surprised and puzzled expressions on these people's faces. The competition begins. Following the referee's order. Clang. The sound of a sword being unsheathed could be heard. At the same time, a golden sword light illuminated the entire area. The next moment, a sword light pierced through Jin Xiang's heart. At the same time, Jin Xiang fell down powerlessly. The golden sword light disappeared solemnly. At the same time, Jin Jian stood with his hands behind his back. His face was still expressionless. His gaze was still as sharp as a sword. At this moment, silence reigned. The entire martial arts arena was silent. Everyone's eyes and mouths were wide open as they stared in disbelief at the situation on the Colosseum. They didn't even see what happened. At the same time, the big screen in the arena was replaying everything that had just happened. When the referee announced the start of the fight, the crowd was stunned. Jin Jian's right hand suddenly condensed a sword light and instantly pierced through Jin Xiang's heart. The speed, accuracy, and ruthlessness of the attack caused him to be unable to react at all. Everyone who saw this scene widened their eyes and mouths as they stared at the big screen in disbelief. Once again, the entire place fell into dead silence. It wasn't until a moment later that someone reacted. How is this possible? He actually killed Jin Xiang in an instant. He's just a loser from the Cloud Sea Academy. How could he kill a genius from the Golden Crow Academy in an instant? Especially the dean of the Golden Crow Academy. At this moment, the teacup in his hand was shaking slightly. Instructor Jin Pontu from the Golden Crow Academy was staring at Jin Xiang in disbelief. He knew these students the best. Although Jin Xiang and Jin Ming were twins and people thought their strength was about the same, in fact, Jin Xiang's talent was slightly higher than Jin Ming's. In particular, Jin Xiang's swordsmanship was much higher than Jin Ming's. Therefore, his strength was higher than Jin Ming's. At the same time, because he had taught Jin Jian for more than 30 years, he was very clear about Jin Jian's strength. Jin Jian's level was 3 levels lower than Jin Xiang's, and his strength was much lower than Jin Xiang's. In his opinion, Although Xianxia couldn't kill Jian in an instant, he could at least defeat Jian in 3 moves. However, the result was exactly the opposite. Xianxia was killed by Jian in an instant. He couldn't accept it at all. He had only left for more than half a semester. How could Jian's strength change so drastically? However, this was the truth. He couldn't accept it. He could only send other students to carry the seriously injured Xianxia down. Then he checked Xianxia's injuries. The sword light pierced right through Xianxia's heart. It was fast, accurate, and ruthless. It was completely different from the style he used to teach. Obviously, after he left, there was an expert who taught Jian. He turned his gaze and looked at the rest area of the Cloud Ocean Academy. Was it the dean? As a super-evolved dragon, the dean was most likely to be the one. However, he had never seen the dean use a sword. Was it another instructor? It didn't look like it. None of the other instructors had such sharp swordsmanship. Was it that stranger? He had never seen him before he left the academy. However, this guy looked sloppy. When the students were playing outside, he didn't come out to discipline them. When the students were suffering from sinus infections, he also acted as if it had nothing to do with him. He sat there as if he was enjoying the scenery. How could he have such sharp swordsmanship? However, it was unlikely for anyone except him. He couldn't figure it out. He decided to go back and investigate after today's competition. The competition continued. After a while, the Earth Element Dragon of the Golden Crow Academy was fighting against the Earth Element Dragon of the Cloud Ocean Academy. The Earth Element Dragon of the Golden Crow Academy was called Zhou Xian. In the previous rounds, he had killed his opponents in an instant. Although he wasn't as strong as Tu Hao in the eyes of the other academies, Zhou Xian was also a rare genius. In their eyes, Zhou Xian of the Cloud Ocean Academy was just looking for a beating. When Zhou Xian got on the stage, Jean Ponta said, "Killing him in an instant is too easy. Go up there and torture him to death." Zhou Xian nodded, "Don't worry, instructor." Soon both sides got on the stage. The audience cheered and cheered once again. Of course, their cheers were not for the Cloud Ocean Academy, but for the Golden Crow Academy. Chapter 6:16. In everyone's eyes, Golden Crow Academy's students were seeded contestants. Although Xianxia was defeated, they still had 19 seeded contestants. So when Zhou Xian went on stage, almost all the students cheered excitedly. Because they had seen Zhou Xian send his opponent flying with one punch. That was definitely a visual impact. Xian, your power is boundless. Xian, I love you, I want to have a baby with you. Xian, kill him. Golden Crow Academy student, is there a need to say? He can easily kill the guy on the other side. Zhou Xian leaped over a kilometer and landed in the middle of the arena. Tu Qing had been waiting there for a long time. Zhou Xian looked at Tu Qing as if he was looking at a hoodlum. He said in disdain, "Your academy student just heavily injured my classmate." Tu Qing chuckled and scratched the back of his head. "Sorry, I'll apologize to your classmate on his behalf." Zhou Xian saw this guy admitting defeat the moment they met and felt even more disdain for him. If apologizing is useful, why do you need me to come up? Tu Qing was also puzzled and scratched the back of his head again. Yeah, why did you come up? Zhou Xian was speechless for a moment. He wondered if this guy had a screw loose in his head. Why do you think I came up? I don't know. Beat you up. Saying that, Zhou Xian leaped out. Originally, the two of them were 50 meters apart. But with Zhou Xian's leap, the distance between the two of them instantly shrunk to 1 meter. At the same time, his right hand clenched into a fist, and with the momentum of charging forward, he instantly punched out. It fiercely blasted towards Tu Qing. Everyone was stunned when they saw this scene. He wanted to kill this guy in one hit. They had seen Zhou Xian's punches before. Although the power was extraordinary, it was not as powerful as before. After Tu Qing leaped out, there were 2 deep footprints left on the ground where he was previously standing. Tu Qing had used his full strength right from the start. Boom, there was a loud sound. A shockwave spread out in all directions. Fortunately, there were energy shields around the arena. These energy shields were specially arranged by the tournament's organizing committee. They had invited over 100 rank 10 evolved dragons to inject their energy into them. No matter how strong these students were, as long as they had not reached the level of a super evolved giant dragon, It was impossible for them to break through the light barrier. However, at that moment, under the impact of the shockwave, a crack actually appeared on the light barrier. Although this crack was extremely small, it still shocked all the teachers and students present. Cracks have appeared on the defensive barrier. Just the shockwave alone was enough to crack the defensive light barrier. How powerful was that attack? That fellow from Ocean of Clouds Academy was probably blasted into bits, right? He won't die. After all, death is allowed in the grand competition. But it will definitely be a serious injury. I understand now. Jin Jian from Ocean of Clouds Academy heavily injured Jin Xiang from Golden Crow Academy, so Tu Dashan used his full strength as soon as the battle began. He's taking revenge for Jin Xiang. At this point, everyone finally understood. No wonder Jin Xiang used his full strength from the beginning. Then everyone looked towards the center of the arena. In the middle of the arena stood a man. He was still in a punching posture. Contrary to everyone's expectations, the person standing was not Tu Dashan. It was Tu Qing from Ocean of Clouds Academy. On the opposite side of Tu Qing, at the edge of the arena 5 kilometers away, there was a figure stuck on the energy light barrier. At that moment, half of the figure's body had already disappeared. The remaining half of his body was stuck in the energy barrier, blood spurting out from his mouth. His back had already smashed a hole in the energy light barrier. His entire back and buttocks were stuck on the energy light barrier, exposing the outside of the light barrier. At that moment, everyone was extremely shocked when they saw this scene. This person was none other than Tu Dashan. This is Tu Dashan from Golden Crow Academy? Oh my god, what's going on? What the hell happened? Everyone looked at the miserable earth mountain inconceivably, and looked at the field that seemed to have done nothing, a harmless Tuching Earth city. Then they looked at the big screen in the air. On the big screen, Tu Dashan was charging towards Tu Qing, covering 50 meters in one step. Tu Qing did not make any shocking movements. He simply stretched out his right fist and met Tu Dashan's fist. Boom, the two of them punched each other. Then Tu Dashan was instantly sent flying backwards. Even if it was a slow-motion replay, but even in the slow motion his flying speed was still extremely fast. From this, it could be seen how fast he was sent flying. Seeing the slow-motion replay, everyone's eyes looked at the Tu Qing in the center of the arena. Tu Dashan's strength was at the top of the 2,000 students. But this guy's punch actually reduced Tu Dashan to such a state. Just how strong was he? Even most of the instructors couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. They knew that they could not take Tu Cheng's punch head-on. How did this guy train? It was said that during the previous test he was only a rank 1 evolved dragon. At that time, all the mentors and students were laughing at him in Ocean of Clouds Academy. Is there no one else in Ocean of Clouds Academy? They actually sent a rank 1 evolved dragon to participate in the tournament. Now everyone finally knew how terrifying this rank 1 evolved dragon's strength was. In the previous match, after Jin Jian had shown such a powerful strength, many people regarded Jin Jian as their biggest opponent. Especially Golden Crow Academy, they planned to focus on studying Jin Jian. But now they realized that Tu Qing was even more terrifying than Jin Jian. Looks like they had to focus on studying this guy. However, this was just the beginning. Next, Shueibua Kongming and even Hickey Wanqing all displayed powerful strength. And coincidentally, their opponents were all from Golden Crow Academy. In the end, they all defeated Golden Crow Academy's students in one move. Finally, in today's battle, 12 students from Ocean of Clouds Academy faced Golden Crow Academy's students. All of them defeated their opponents in one move. More than half of Golden Crow Academy's students were eliminated. At this point, all the students and mentors were shocked. They looked down on Ocean of Clouds Academy the most, but they did not expect it to be so terrifying. As long as they encountered a seeded contestant, they would basically crush the seeded contestant to the ground. How could they be so strong? You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.